Let's listen.
Opportunity and no discrimination based on what you look like, who you like, and anything of that nature. I think black women, specifically, I grew up with a lot of prominent black women in my life that were very important to me and how I was raised and how I grew up, being my stepmom, my AU coach. So I understand like how amazing they are and how they should get the same equal opportunity as a white woman, as a white man, to be an important piece of this league. And it was built on a lot of black women, this league was. So it's definitely right for them to get the same.
Paige Buchers is not accusing anyone of hiring by race. She is asking whether black women receive the same opportunity to become decision makers. And that distinction is where this entire controversy begins.
Stephanie White. Now, Paige Buchers has been a topic of discussion today because of this right here. Paige Buchers on black coaches in the WNBA. Now, this is what she had to say. Let's blow this up real quick, man, because this right here has garnered major views. This post by Champion Side already had 587,000 views, over 1,300 retweets, and 400 comments.
The statement spread because it landed directly inside one of the most combustible debates in professional basketball. The post cited in this source had reportedly generated hundreds of thousands of views, more than 13,000 reposts, and hundreds of comments. But popularity does not settle what Paige meant, whether her argument is supported or why Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White were suddenly pulled into the conversation. That connection is the real story. One debate concerns access to coaching positions. The other concerns whether Indiana's staff has adequately protected and advocated for its franchise player. Those issues can overlap when people discuss leadership, but they are not interchangeable. And later, there is an even more important question. Is Paige's statement being used to avoid the Caitlin Clark controversy, or are commentators combining two unrelated stories because conflict attracts more attention than careful analysis?
I want you guys to listen to what I'm about to read to you. In 2 years under Stephanie White, Caitlin Clark has been injured and out of all or part of 47 games and been sat down 121 times for being fouled or in foul trouble. Caitlin is the most fouled player in the WNBA, yet Stephanie White has never challenged a single foul called against her.
Those are serious numbers, but they are presented here as a social media claim, not as independently verified league data. The source says Caitlin Clark has missed all or part of 47 games across 2 seasons, has been knocked down or affected by foul trouble 121 times, and has never received a successful coaching challenge from Stephanie White. Before building a conclusion on that, each part would need to be separated and checked. Games missed because of injury are not automatically evidence that a coach failed to defend a player. Being knocked down is not the same as an official foul, and being placed in foul trouble is a different category again. Even the challenge claim requires the game logs, because coaches can challenge only certain reviewable calls and must consider the score, timing, available timeouts, and likelihood of reversal. None of that means the concern should be dismissed. It means the most powerful version of the argument is not a giant total copied from a post. It is a documented sequence of specific moments in which Clark absorbed questionable contact, Indiana had a realistic opportunity to respond, and the staff chose not to act. That evidence would establish a pattern. Without it, the statistics create suspicion but do not yet prove motive.
This lady right here is the coach of the Indiana Fever, Stephanie White. She has yet to challenge a play for Caitlin Clark. She has yet to come to her defense.
That is the emotional center of the complaint. Supporters do not merely want White to manage possessions and substitutions. They want the head coach to visibly defend Caitlin Clark when the game becomes physical. Coaching advocacy matters because players notice who fights for them. Officials notice which benches demand explanations. Fans notice when a coach accepts contact against one player but reacts immediately when somebody else is involved. A technical foul or challenge is not always strategically wise, yet silence can still communicate something. The difficult part is deciding what that silence communicates. It could be restraint. It could be confidence that the officiating crew will correct itself. It could be a calculated decision to preserve a challenge. Or it could be exactly what frustrated fans suspect: a staff that has become too comfortable watching its most valuable player absorb treatment that would trigger a stronger response elsewhere. The clip gives us the accusation. It does not give us access to White's reasoning, so assigning a personal or political motive would go beyond the available evidence.
Sad. Somebody said, I was so stunned by the fact that Coach White has never issued a challenge for Caitlin Clark. These are facts, man. She ain't never, ever issued one. And she just did one for Kelsey Mitchell the other night.
Now the argument becomes more concrete. The host points to a recent challenge involving Kelsey Mitchell and asks why that same urgency has not appeared for Clark. That comparison is more useful than a broad claim about hidden loyalties because it gives viewers something observable. If White challenged a call for Mitchell, fans can examine the game situation, the type of call, the timing, and the evidence available to the bench. Then they can compare it with moments involving Clark. But one challenge does not automatically prove favoritism. A coach might challenge a play for one athlete because video staff immediately confirmed the call was likely wrong. A similar-looking play involving another athlete might not have been reviewable, might have occurred too early, or might have offered little chance of reversal. The criticism becomes credible only when the standard is consistent. Were there multiple reviewable calls involving Clark? Did replay clearly favor Indiana? Did the staff have a challenge available? Did White decline repeatedly while using that tool for teammates in comparable circumstances? Those details matter because the strongest case against a coach should survive scrutiny from people who do not already agree with it.
When it comes to Kelsey Mitchell, she go over and beyond for Kelsey Mitchell, bro. Like, she make no excuses when it comes to Kelsey Mitchell, but anytime it's any situation dealing with Caitlin Clark, we don't hear nothing about it. You want to know what we hear? Crickets. That's what we hear. Damn me, crickets.
The word crickets explains why this issue is growing. Clark's supporters believe they see an imbalance not only in challenges, but in public messaging. When Mitchell struggles or becomes part of a controversy, the perception is that Indiana protects her role and explains what the team needs from her. When Clark is hit, restricted, criticized, or forced to play through constant physical pressure, those same fans believe the organization becomes vague. That perception has consequences even when the staff believes it is behaving fairly. Caitlin Clark is not simply another player on the roster. She changes ticket demand, television interest, media coverage, and the amount of scrutiny placed on every coaching decision. Treating her exactly like everyone else may sound principled, but managing a franchise player requires acknowledging the unusual burden attached to that role. It does not require allowing Clark to control the team. It requires the organization to communicate clearly enough that every controversial decision does not become evidence of a hidden agenda. If Indiana believes the physicality against her is legal, say that and explain why. If the staff has submitted questionable plays to the league, disclose that process without exaggerating it. If challenges were unavailable or strategically unwise, explain the basketball calculation. Silence leaves an empty space, and online speculation always rushes to fill it.
Now, she got a point here, guys. She definitely got a point how there should be more black women coaches. I ain't gonna lie to her about that. Good stuff for Paige Beckers for calling it out. The only issue I have a problem with is now they're trying to change the narrative from black coaches to assaults on the basketball court. You guys got to read in between the line. They want Paige Beckers to be the poster child of this league. That's why they made Paige talk about the black coaches not having an opportunity.
This is the pivotal moment because the host grants Paige's central point. He agrees that black women deserve equal opportunity to coach in the WNBA. His objection is that the discussion might be redirected from on-court treatment toward representation. That concern deserves examination, but the transcript offers no evidence that Paige was instructed to make this statement, selected as a replacement for Clark, or deployed by the league to change the subject. Those are theories about coordination, not established facts. Paige explained her position through her own upbringing. She mentioned influential black women in her life, including her stepmother and an amateur basketball coach. That is a personal explanation for why the issue matters to her. It is not proof of a league strategy. The timing can still be politically convenient without being orchestrated. Sports organizations benefit whenever the public moves from one damaging controversy to another. Media outlets also benefit from combining separate arguments into a larger cultural conflict. But convenience is not evidence of conspiracy. The fair conclusion is narrower. Page raised a legitimate employment question. Commentators then attached that statement to existing anger about Caitlin Clark. Once those stories were merged, the debate stopped being about hiring processes or officiating decisions and became a contest over which group was allegedly trying to control the league. That shift generates engagement, but it makes both issues harder to solve.
A couple. But with that being said, there is black WNBA team owners. Oh, yes, it is. So, you mean to tell me black owners don't want to hire black coaches? Because that is exactly what is happening in the league. So if she's going to call it out, you got to start calling out these owners too.
The focus now moves from players to ownership, and that is a necessary pivot. Coaches are hired by executives and owners. If the league wants more qualified black women receiving genuine consideration, accountability cannot stop with public statements from athletes. The important questions are procedural. Who is being interviewed? How broad is the candidate pool? Are assistant coaches being developed for top jobs? Do ownership groups repeatedly rely on the same professional networks? Are candidates receiving meaningful interviews, or are teams completing a process after already deciding whom they want? Those questions apply to every ownership group. An owner's race does not determine whom that person will hire, just as a coach's race does not predetermine how that coach will treat Caitlin Clark. People make decisions through incentives, relationships, experience, organizational culture, and personal judgment. Reducing everything to identity can obscure the mechanisms that actually shape hiring. Still, the host is correct that ownership decisions should be examined. Public advocacy becomes less persuasive when the people with hiring authority refuse to explain their own record. Teams cannot celebrate the league's history, market themselves through social causes, and then treat leadership diversity as somebody else's responsibility. The standard should be consistent. Show the process, explain the criteria, and demonstrate that opportunity is more than a slogan.
Now, and she has been very, very vocal about Caitlin Clark, that is the Atlanta Dream co-owner of their team, Tanisha Wright. Now, despite all of this, shout out to this tweet, it stated, even the most activist feminist co-owner VP of the Atlanta Dream doesn't have a black woman coach as her head coach. In fact, they fired a black woman, Tanisha Wright did, to hire a white man. Thoughts in the comments?
The Atlanta example is presented as a contradiction. An ownership group associated with progressive advocacy replaced a black woman head coach with a white man. That decision can be questioned, but the racial identities of the outgoing and incoming coaches do not reveal whether the move was justified. A team can support broader opportunity while still deciding that a particular coach is not the right person for that roster. Equal opportunity does not mean permanent employment or predetermined outcomes. It means candidates receive serious consideration under standards that are applied honestly. The proper analysis would examine the former coach's results, the direction of the franchise, the available candidates, the reasons ownership gave for the change, and whether comparable coaches were treated differently. Without that information, the example is rhetorically powerful but analytically incomplete. It does, however, expose a problem with symbolic politics in sports. Organizations often speak in sweeping moral language while making individual decisions behind closed doors. Fans then have to choose between accepting a press release and assuming hypocrisy. Transparency would reduce that gap. Teams do not need to publish confidential interviews, but they can explain what qualities they prioritized, how many candidates were considered, and why the successful applicant fit the basketball plan. Actions do matter more than slogans. But actions must be evaluated through evidence rather than through the identity of one person hired or fired.
Nothing about that. Somebody else said, yeah, where are all the black racists who want black coaches go at these owners? Exactly, bro. Because it ain't like other sports leagues, you know, like the NFL, the NBA, MLB. They ain't really got black owners like that. I don't think the NFL got any black owners. So when there's a black owner, I feel like the topic should be more about the black owners not hiring black coaches than about all of the other teams. Like, let's target them first. Like, if y'all gonna make this a race thing, y'all need to make it a race thing with targeting the black owners that's not hiring black women.
This argument sounds direct. Begin with black owners and ask why they are not hiring black women. But it creates the same essentialist trap that damages the larger discussion. Black owners are not a single political unit. They do not share one hiring philosophy, one set of relationships, or one obligation to choose candidates based on race. Holding them to a different standard can unintentionally reproduce the assumption that identity must determine professional decisions. The better standard applies to everyone with power. Every ownership group should be able to show that qualified candidates are not being excluded by closed networks, informal favoritism, or assumptions about what leadership is supposed to look like. That approach also protects the idea of merit, because merit is not discovered in a vacuum. A candidate cannot prove readiness without opportunities to lead, develop, and make decisions. If the same people continually receive those developmental opportunities, the eventual hiring pool will reflect the original imbalance. This is where the loudest versions of the debate usually miss each other. One side hears equal opportunity and assumes somebody is demanding racial quotas. The other side hears hire on merit and assumes merit is being used as a disguise for exclusion. Neither conclusion is automatically true. Opportunity concerns the path into the competition. Merit concerns how candidates are evaluated once they are seriously considered. A credible system needs both, and that brings the story back to Paige. Her actual words were about receiving the same opportunity as white women and white men. She did not say every vacancy must go to a black woman. She did not say race should replace competence. The backlash becomes much easier to generate when her narrower statement is rewritten into a position she never expressed in this clip.
Like, that should be the focal point. But there definitely should be more black women coaches. I ain't finna sit up here and say that it shouldn't, because it damn sure should. Maybe Caitlin Clark need a black coach, to be honest with you. Cheryl Miller looking real good right now. Boy, could you imagine Caitlin Clark under Cheryl Miller right now, bro? Cheryl Miller? What the Shuggle? With Cheryl Miller? Talk about box office, bro. I feel like Caitlin Clark needs.
The host then introduces Cheryl Miller as the kind of commanding personality Caitlin Clark might need. That suggestion reveals that the two controversies are not naturally opposed. Someone can believe the WNBA should develop more black women coaches and simultaneously believe Clark needs stronger protection from Indiana's bench. Those positions do not cancel each other. In fact, the host imagines a black coach as the answer to his frustration with Stephanie White. The real issue is coaching fit. Clark plays with unusual pace, range, vision, and public pressure. A coach responsible for her development must build an offense that uses those strengths without allowing one player to consume the entire structure. That coach must also manage veterans who had careers before Clark arrived and refused to let the locker room divide into competing fan bases. Public advocacy is part of that job, but it is not the entire job. The right coach must know when to confront officials, when to challenge, when to protect a player privately, and when to tell that player she is wrong. Constant outrage would eventually lose its effect. Constant silence can look like indifference. A respected figure such as Miller carries enormous authority, but reputation alone cannot answer questions about daily preparation, modern schemes, player development, travel demands, or interest in a full-time WNBA position. The fantasy is attractive because it represents toughness. The actual hiring decision would require much more. That distinction applies to every candidate Paige's comments might elevate. Expanding opportunity means looking beyond familiar names while still conducting a serious basketball evaluation.
Definitely do. But would Indiana Fever hire a black coach in Indy? Would they? Have they ever had a black head coach in Indy? I don't know. I ain't been following the W that long. So I ain't gonna hold you, bro. Maybe they have, but I highly doubt it, bro. Get down in the comment section right now and let me know if the Indiana Fever has ever hired a black head coach to coach this basketball.
The closing question asks whether Indiana has ever hired a black head coach, and the speaker openly admits he does not know. That admission is important because it shows how quickly a historical claim can enter a viral argument before anyone verifies the record. A franchise's history should be checked before it is used as evidence. Then the current structure should be examined separately. Who controls basketball operations? How are coaches selected? What qualities did Indiana prioritize when hiring Stephanie White? What measurable standards will determine whether she keeps the job? Those questions lead to the real payoff in this controversy. Paige Buickers did not create the frustration around Caitlin Clark. That frustration already existed because fans believe Clark receives extraordinary physical attention while Indiana responds with ordinary institutional language. Paige's statement became a target because it arrived inside that atmosphere and gave commentators a second emotionally charged subject to attach to the first, but there is no need to choose between them. The WNBA can investigate whether its coaching pipeline provides genuine opportunity, and Indiana can be held accountable for how it manages and protects Clark. One discussion does not erase the other unless media figures and fans deliberately turn them into rival causes. The strongest criticism of Stephanie White is not based on her race, her previous employer, or an assumed political allegiance. It is based on basketball decisions that can be documented: challenge usage, public communication, rotations, offensive structure, player health management, and the consistency of her response when Clark faces physical play. Likewise, the strongest argument for more black women coaches is not that owners should hire by racial obligation. It is that a league built through the contributions of many black women should examine whether those women have comparable access to the leadership pipeline after their playing careers end. Once the debate is framed that way, the alleged distraction loses its power. Paige's comments can be evaluated on their own language. White's coaching can be evaluated through her actual decisions. Ownership groups can be evaluated through their hiring processes. Nobody needs an unsupported conspiracy to make the story important. The audience now has a clear choice. Do you believe Stephanie White's restraint is sound coaching that has been misread by an angry fan base? Or has Indiana failed to defend Caitlin Clark with the urgency expected from a franchise protecting its most important player? And do Paige Buickers' comments identify a legitimate opportunity problem? Or do you think the league's current hiring system is already fair? Put your position in the comments, explain which evidence changed your mind, and subscribe for the next breakdown.